Howdy, howdy. Happy Friday.
Hello, hello.
Hey, everyone. You all,
Are,
you all may
are
be
we missing?
noticing that, yeah. For those of you who watched the end of last week's episode, there were some words said that could not be taken back, and we have a little shake up here. So I'm now the new Ryland, and Jared's now the new Tyler, and Amy, Amy is is still Amy because she's a perfect Amy, and
Okay,
so.
then. Well, we'll just jump right into this then. We were going to go through how we come up with our processes today of like, hey, we take something from idea to concept, through approvals and into production. Um, I guess let's start off with that
Oh
since
wait, I think there's a knock on the recording room door. Oh, there he is.
He's
oh thank
back.
goodness.
I'm on administrative probation, guys. Yay. Tyler, you've been demoted. Jared, you're back to where you
Tyler
were.
again. Jared's
Amy
back to
remains
Jared.
perfect. Yeah, Tom. Tom can't be telling me what to do, drinking my Kool-Aid, trying to get in on my.
Oh God, it happened again. This is it's so fast. Wait, hold on. I'm getting a text. Okay,
He's got his finger on the button. Oh,
this
that's
is
awesome.
so awkward.
All right, I think we're gonna make it. I'll keep my tongue in check. So
Oh, man.
so Ming the merciless won't dismiss me
All
again.
hail.
All hail
All
Ming.
hail.
Hail Ming. Absolutely. But anyway, you can't tell me what to do. I'm my own man. I'm in a gang. That's my thing.
I'm waiting for a screen to disappear again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I need to put up the Cartman clip of Cartman. I'm in a gang. I do what I want.
I do what I want. I'm in a
Yeah.
gang.
All right. Happy Friday, guys. What's up?
Well, happy. I'm glad that you actually joined us. I was getting a little worried there for a moment.
He really does
Um,
fuss though. It's so comical. I don't know if he's gone to you about it yet, because that'd be like him, because just go behind my back, complain to somebody else on the team. But anyway, he really does
My phone
really
is
does
ringing.
try to direct us. Every time we do one of these things, he's like, you should have talked about this for 5 minutes longer, and then next time you guys need to do this and draw pictures and play Pictionary, and he's always coming up with some ridiculous idea that I'm just dismissive of. So I like venting on this just to let him know how little I think of his ideas. So anyway, I got that out. There we go. I'm done. Hi guys. Yay.
Alrighty. So when
Let's get to talking about nothing.
let's get to talking about some props.
Yeah,
Let's do
let's
prop stuff today.
Are we really going to talk about something
We are. We
business
actually
related today?
we
Okay,
are.
go.
So I would like to know more information from you guys about kind of what our process is from taking something from just a basic idea, like, oh, we want to do the oxygen destroyer. How do we get from idea to like production?
I mean, how
Let's-
deep? Okay, fair one, because people do like hearing about that. So I guess we
Yeah.
decide let's take it all the way back, and again, it's hard for us to really talk about that sometimes, Amy, as you know, because we're so jaded. We just presume everybody else would find this boring. So it's hard for us to kind of calibrate the conversation, because we much like these conversations, we really do kind of communicate this way in house when we jump on a Skype or a phone call or whatever. Just the four of us will. Its genesis is pretty simple. It starts with something we love. Well, we've never. I don't think we've licensed anything that one of us doesn't love. Because you've got to make it. You've got to come up with all these creative ideas and energy to drive it and bring it through production and ultimately offer it to collectors. And I think they would feel, I certainly would. I can tell if somebody's insincere when they make something, if their heart's not in it. I mean, you can tell where somebody's half-assed a project. And I think that's just something none of us want to do or be any part of. And we're quick to loud the other one out if we're not feeling the energy. I mean, there's certainly projects we've done where one of us loves a given item more than the other, but we're all on board nonetheless. I might be over the top crazy excited about a JP thing. Well, I think we all love JP stuff, an equal amount, but you know what I mean? Some of those some of those B cuts that we've done, like Fantastic or something like that. The pulse may be a little quicker with one of us for a given item than another. But I digress. Back to how it all comes together. It usually comes together just like that, just a thought. So let's use our new relationship with Toho and talk about Godzilla. So it was in our press release. One of the first things we'll do will be the oxygen destroyer. So that literally came about by just in-house conversations. Hey, isn't it funny how nobody's ever made this? And then we find out there was actually a really over-the-top, super cool bootleg done years ago. But I mean, it was thousands and thousands of dollars. And then we're like, okay, well, nobody's done it commercially, a full-size 1/1, you know, uh, O2 destroyer. Then it kind of goes into, well, if we don't have the license, of course, what other items we could do from the verse and the films and so on. Then ultimately, if we get a line plan, which is a list of, more than a few given items from a property together, that's when we would actually chase the relationship with a given IP holder, a studio, and say, hey, we've got some ideas. This is what we want to make from, XYZ. And that's kind of what happened with Godzilla, without giving too many things away. It started with the oxygen destroyer, and then I don't know if it was Tyler or me. One of us threw out Jet Jaguar, and I'm trying not to spill too much stuff right now. But those two items, and then a few other things we came up with, was enough to approach them and kind of discuss a relationship and see how we all might get along. Now, from actually starting to build it, once the idea is birthed, usually there's a conversation that starts with, what do we want to make it from? And Tyler, you and Jared or Amy, you guys jump in from there, because I'm tired of hearing myself talk.
I think there has to be like you said before, a palpable excitement on what we're making.
Mm-hmm.
And the licensors we talk to, they get a sense of that, and because they want to make something fun too. They're a part of this because they love it.
Yeah.
And so much of these relationships are because we approach a licensor with this excitement, like, man, this is going to be really cool. We really want to do this. We love this stuff. And I think that's the genesis of it, is that mutual love and excitement for making something from these.
Yeah, if you're lucky, right? Because we don't always get that, depending on the studio, and that's certainly with Toho and our primary rep and everybody we talked to, stateside here about our ideas. Man, they've just been so supportive, and really behind everything we do. And before we jumped on this call, even, we were talking about one of our submissions that you had put in yesterday. And do you want to talk about that and just kind of the excitement behind that?
Oh yeah, without mentioning what the submission is yet, because we'll save it for later. I submitted it to Toho last night, and the response I got back from our rep over there was just like, "Oh, this is the greatest! Love it! This is going to be so cool."
That's what you want to hear, right? Because that's going to continue through development and packaging, and ultimately until you've, the idea is, bared fruit. You've got a realized product. It's you've got a smoother road ahead with matched excitement behind a given idea, and we have that across the board with I can't think of anything we've really put out there that we plan to do over the next few years that hasn't been met with, oh man, that's excellent, let's do that. And then it boils down to materials, because then that Rubicon you've got to cross is, how far do we go? I mean, sure, there's going to be one or two guys that, you make the platinum edition of whatever, and they're gonna be in line for it. But generally, you sell more Fords than Cadillacs. But when you're a specialty company like we are, and we pride ourselves on making museum quality replicas, we try to strike that balance, that velvet rope bit of exclusivity. But we certainly don't want to downgrade ourselves to making, hollow plastic cosplay pieces per se. Not that there's anything wrong with those. There's people to provide those items for people, but we're trying to do more of those heirloom-esque replicas. And Tyler, you're always good at speaking to that.
Yeah, it's we kind of, whenever we try to make something, it is always, and it's not all we do. We do make paper props. So we've made like some foam monkey paws, things like that. But mostly when we're making something, it's one of those things where we kind of want someone to love it so much that they're like, you know, we won't sell this. This is going to be part of our collection. This is going to be a prize piece in our movie room. Like one day, maybe if my kids are into this, they'll want this piece. So we kind of do like we always really really try to do the highest quality we can while still maintaining like an air of affordability, because you can make these things like, if money was no object for anyone, you could make these things as ludicrously, insanely, you know, over the top as you wanted. But we realize, like, I mean, especially with like economy as it is, and money's expensive right now. We really do put a lot of effort into getting essentially the most bang for the buck, without sacrificing quality.
Yeah. I think two words that always: price appropriate, right?
Mhm.
For anything we do, and something like the monkey paw that you mentioned, it's only so much you can do with a monkey paw. You use the best materials you can, so it's just not a mess of a pile of dust on somebody's shelf in a couple years. And the paper, well, that speaks to itself. You do a replica newspaper, I don't care what you print it on, it's still a replica newspaper, and it's not going to be terribly expensive. uh, but you get into things like full size 1-1 oxygen destroyers. That's a pretty ambitious project. So when we sit then the conversation usually gets into, well, what do you want it to do? And this is there's something that we probably didn't plan a road we didn't plan to go down with this, but we run into this all the time whenever we announce a new item. I'll use the Joy Emanator as an example. The only thing we've done so far on the Joy Emanator is just show a picture of our master that we got from the studio that made that for us, and then we showed the broken emanator too. But no sooner than we showed the Joy Emanator, we start getting emails and suggestions, live on our socials and stuff, where people are like, I think that it should be and then it should be metal, and it should actually project a hologram of joy, and it should do, and people aren't kidding. I mean, sometimes they might be kidding when they say things like this, but this is just like we were saying when we're doing expos and people come up to us at shows. They'll grab the grapnel, modular grapnel from Batman, and they will hold that metal spike in their hand, and they'll go, "Does it shoot?" As yeah, we want that liability.
Mhm.
Yes, it shoots for $800. You can have a fully functional grapnel.
We invented
Yeah.
micro hydraulics.
Yes. There'll inevitably
Uh,
be back years ago when I used to do the occasional hobby piece, something like the cryo can, I'd inevitably get somebody who would say, does it dispense shaving cream? Sure. Yeah, I invented a super, as you were saying, a micro dispensing unit that I can pressurize that will spit out a dollop of shaving cream. And I get it. I get it when children bring it up, but every once in a while will get a straight faced adult who will mention these things.
You
So
know,
what's
I
up?
wonder if that comes from a
The
place of admiration, really,
I
that
think
they're
I
holding
think
it and
I
they're
think
seeing
it.
it, and they're so amazed by it that they think, man, does this do what it did in the film? Like, it's so
That's what I
cool. Maybe it does.
I try to take it as a compliment that we've realized the replica to such an extent that they, in their mind's eye, they're looking at this given piece and they're like, does it really do such and such? And it's more of a it's more of just a stream of consciousness that's coming
Mhm.
out right then, and for lack of another way to articulate perhaps how happy they are with it. So I
Yeah.
usually look at it like that. Every once in a while we can see it's not that, but for the most part, I think it's that way. So back to, like Tyler was saying, we always want it to do as much as it can without taking liberties to it. That's more what I'm speaking to. um, we're out to replicate a piece of memorabilia, a prop, as it sat on set. um, Not everything that it does in post. Sometimes it is fun when it works to add to it, much like we did with the bat radio. The original 66 bat radio, all it did, the hero ones, I mean, most of them did nothing, but the hero one actually had that little bulb that just lit up on it. And so at first, being purists, that's all we wanted our bat radio to do was light up. But as Tyler mentioned in another one of these episodes, um, uh, we had the opportunity to put a switch on it, and they were, the studio was being cooperative and said we could use sound files. So we put some voice samples on it. And so the purists can toggle to one side and have the light. But if you want to have a little fun with it, again, in that theater of the mind, and revert to childhood, flip it to the right and you hear those voices. So we do like to do that when we can, but we don't want to take such liberties with a replica, and this brings us back full circle to the oxygen destroyer. The questions before us are, what's it going to do? Well, the original probably didn't do a whole lot. I mean, again, I'm trying not to give too much away of where we're headed with our projects right now, but we've got to wrestle with that. What when you hold this in your hand, what should it feel like? Well, instantly you go to, well, it should be cold to the touch. You don't want to pick this thing up and it just be a hollow piece of vinyl, that just feels like a pool toy. It should have some heft. It should be cold to the touch. And we want to go as far as we can with the materials to be everything it should be on your shelf. You look at it and you're like, well, is it metal? Well, yeah, it's probably metal. So we're going to do everything we can to explore those materials of what's available to us. Could it perhaps be fiberglass? Again, giving it some heft and something that we can metalize, maybe. We're still exploring all those things. That's what goes on behind the scenes in pre-production. How far are we going to go with it? And one of the things we do when we come up with these ideas, we start to put together a book. And you want to talk about a book and how those go out to factories, Jared?
Yeah. So when we talk with our suppliers about actually producing these things, we need to give them as much information as possible up front, because we want to make it clear, this is what it does, this is what it does not do. It's these overall dimensions, these materials are ideal, and we document that all together in a PDF booklet that we put together that shows every view, every reference image that we can find, measurements, material callouts. It's like a Bible of the project as we're trying to replicate this item. And that's what we share with our overseas suppliers, because we want everything very spelled out, to be exactly how we want it to be. And those books, they take a little time to put together, because some of those elements we have to create as we go. Like on a particular prop may be in the middle of being sculpted and we don't have it quite ready to share how we're separating it out, how we want it engineered. So
right.
Once we get those complete, that is shared, and that kind of starts the process, because we don't really have a process where we stop what we're doing and our supplier starts what they're doing. It very much overlaps, because we see our supplier as a part of overall development, that they're helping us figure out how and what we can do with an item, while we're in the process of kind of figuring that out ourselves. So it's definitely a cooperative process. It overlaps, and it helps us in the end get a product that we're all happy with.
Right. And no topic is too mundane. We're calling out the thickness of the cardboard. We're calling out the material that we want the piece packaged in, the thickness, the bumpers, the space between the art box, and I mean literally down to the bag and what we might want written on that, the collateral, the folders, the certificate of authenticity, whatever. I mean, every single bit of that is called out up front, and how it fits into a box without getting dog-eared or otherwise mangled. And it's got to survive the journey from wherever to us, and then ultimately back out in the post, which can be more brutal in the States than the journey of an ocean. And so yeah, nothing is too mundane there. And then in between, there's just endless conversations back and forth. Tyler, you want to talk about the art? You want to talk about boxes? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just
when we ultimately get the die from when we
Yeah, well, there's kind of two ways to go out boxes. You can always just sort of there's always like an easy way and a hard way, and usually the hard way kind of creates a better end product. Because oftentimes there's like style guide artwork, and what's great about style guide artwork is it's easy to get approved. You know, things you do with it, approvals are quick. But the problem with that is that style guide goes out to every licensor.
Yeah, and you
So
look
if
like
you're making,
everybody else's stuff.
yeah, so if you're making a $500 prop replica, it's going to have the same packaging as the $18 Hasbro toy or anything else like that. And we always kind of try to separate. You know, we don't. It's so hard. It's building audience perception is difficult enough, and it's very difficult to convince someone that your piece is worth hundreds of dollars when on the shelf it still just looks like the toy. You know, it has that kind of toy
Yeah.
feel because of the packaging, because of the presentation. And so the harder way is oftentimes because studios have their own packaging guideline people. We can talk to those people. We can create our own designs. We can go back and forth with their team. And sorry, I have a sneeze coming on. And when generally those, it's coming.
There it is. Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. And so while it takes a little longer, you kind of get a little more unique sense of like one example. I mean, a couple examples would be in our Jurassic Park line. You know, like our Hammond cane, we had to get special permissions to do that wooden crate style box.
Right,
and
right.
For the cryo can itself, we had to get special permission to do that style of box. And because at the time the style guide for the Jurassic Park right now is very much based on the colors of the tour Jeep. You know, so there's like the kind of wavy patterns on it and bright green and yellow, which is like, it looks cool, but it looks Hasbro. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't necessarily say like elite limited prop replica. So we do take a lot of time and pride in that. And sometimes there's hits and misses. Like I personally thought our Lost Boys bottle box was awesome and super artsy. And I was like, oh, this will be sweet. Everyone's going to love this. And then like, we saw some unboxing and people were like, I'm not really sure what this is. I mean, so, but it's not for laziness. It's just, you know, sometimes we think something's cool and like everything else, you know, sometimes something you think's cool isn't cool to someone else. I still stand by that box. I think it's a rad box.
Well, you know, and I like it too, because what we were trying to do there was not do what, you know, we didn't want to do the ridiculous thing, the obvious thing, put a picture of the cave on the front of the box. I mean, it's a $400.
Or just put a picture of, yeah, or just put
the merry-go-round
on the box, or just
yeah.
David, or, you know, and we did a little bit more of that on the back, and we were kind of like, let's go a little artsy with it because it's an abstract piece. But
yeah, and Amy didn't love it. She didn't love the back of the box, and I
I loved the back of the box. I just wasn't crazy about the front of it. I loved the back.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I just wasn't always crazy about the front.
Tyler and I were coming from the same place on the front in that we wanted, I mean, when the movie starts, the Lost Boys logo comes out of the darkness. That's all it is. You've got that black, you know, the black background and the white, you know, LB logo. And we liked that. But no matter how big we pulled it out, we still would have had that negative space at the top of the bottom of the box. So we ultimately did with what is blood mixing in, you know, water. It was supposed to be subtle, but even that wasn't easy. If you remember when we got our first box samples back, it was way too dark, and it was a case of where you're constantly working in concert with your supplier to communicate and say, well, hey, this is a little dark, we need this brought up a little bit. And then there you are waiting a couple of weeks for another sample. And then when people talk about you know, how long it takes to land one of these projects, you know, it's Jared put it best in its most simplistic nature, is it's hard to do. It's hard to make prop replicas. It's not like an action figure. It's not like a toy that's been made by a dozen different companies that's just realized under a different logo. Every time you do a prop replica, something like this, you're usually in new territory. At least we are. We try to do those things nobody else has, and if it has been done, we want to take it to a point where it's just a different animal altogether. But yeah, the LB box is a wonderful example of just art. I liked clean and simple, and what I thought was kind of a classy, for lack of a better word, element to it. I didn't want it, like I said, to have a merry-go-round on the front or all this imagery that comes to mind when you a milk carton with a kid on the side of it. All these, you don't want it to have all these, these images that just come to mind when you first think of the film. So we wanted clean and simple. And of course it's David's bottle. So he made its way to the back, deservingly so. And a little, a quote from the film. But yeah, that one got some mixed reviews, but that's going to happen because it speaks to what Jared was saying, a level of passion. And that's kind of the business that we're in. We're not in the lukewarm, I like it a little bit business. I mean, on some of the stuff for a Lost Boys bottle at $399, you're a fan, you're passionate about it. And we want our level of excitement to match that. And then we get to all keep on collecting and making, cool things like that. So anyway, that's just a little peek at the process of just how it goes with us. But usually everything that's discussed backstage, as far as the team goes, it starts with, do we like it enough to live with this for the next half a year or 3/4 of a year in production? Because it's like a new family member. You're literally discussing it every day, every nuance of it. And it's like rearing a child, the time and affection and attention you give to it, it blossoms into, your end result there. So,
it's more like nurse in that way, because we give the children away once they're done with them.
We do release them to the wild, and we want to make sure they're ready. So yeah, but that's generally how the concept process works. We'll get into some of the other stuff down the road, because the first step is always concept. So to answer your original question, Amy, that's how it begins. And Jared and I both are big Genesis. The beginning of a given project is always concept, because you got to birth it, have in the back of your mind, ultimately, if there's some questions from your partner, the studio, the IP holder, they're inevitably going to have some questions. You want to be prepped and, cocked and loaded to answer those, and sometimes fight for a given idea. In that sometimes, never the case with Godzilla stuff, of course, but with other studios, we've been in positions before where we've really had to explain ourselves. And why do you want to do this? Why is this important to the franchise? And why is this a good fit? And we want to be ready for that. So again, all speaking to concept, just a given passion and the inspiration behind those original ideas. And then after concept, we start getting into prototypes and modeling. But we'll save that for another time, because I'm looking at the clock, and somehow we've managed to run off 28 minutes already.
Well, I appreciate you guys running through that, because we really do get questions about, hey, where do you guys come up with this stuff? How do you guys get from point A to point B? So it really does kind of help to put it out on video and get to share that with everybody.
Yeah, maybe we'll just pick up, we'll bookmark here, at concept. And we'll get more into paint and sculpt. We'll bring you guys
we can kind of go through all the steps.
Yeah, we'll bring you guys in on the terminology, that we just rattle off on every day. It's just part of our lexicon, I guess, that when we're talking about the stuff. But we'll bring you guys in on it, and that way, if you want to hit us up on socials and you have questions about something, you can refer to it as such when you guys were talking about blah blah blah, and we'll be able to answer you better. So
awesome. Thank you guys again for tuning in with us on this Friday, and y'all have a wonderful weekend.
You guys have a good weekend. We'll see you. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.